Hello, happy December, happy holidays, and welcome to Voices of CFMA, Construction Financial Management Association's podcast featuring conversations with industry leaders, sponsored by Old Republic Surety. I'm your host, Sal Marino, CFMA's Director of Communications and an Assistant Editor for CFMA Building Profits. This month, I'm talking with Rhett Ennis. Rhett is a Managing Director at CBIZ, and he is also the Chair for CFMA's Membership Committee. Rhett, thanks for joining me today. Let's just jump right in. Can you give everyone a little bit of background about what you do?
Yeah, sure. So I'm with CBIZ MHM. I'm out in Seattle, well, technically Bellevue, Washington. We're known as the Seattle local office for CBIZ. So CBIZ is a nationwide kind of top 10 CPA firm specializing in tax, audit. They do benefits and insurance, everything. We do it all, basically, one-stop shop for not just contractors, construction, but a lot of mid-market businesses. We focus on that mid-market, which obviously construction is a sweet spot for that. We're pretty big, but not the biggest guy in the room. We like to say we out local the nationals and out national the locals. That's how we approach this thing. So great resources, but our offices that specialize in construction, we're kind of born and raised in the markets that we serve, and we've kind of built them from small firms frequently to pretty large presences in the construction markets we go after and work in. So I've been with my firm, which was a fairly recent acquisition by CBIZ. A couple of years ago, we were previously Burns and Porter out here in Bellevue, and we've been around since 1985. Founded by two partners, Greg Porter, Bob Burnson. Built it, bootstraps, ground up, ratio algebra, all that. Started the firm on a credit card, grew it to 120 plus. Yeah, grew it to 120 plus people before we merged with CBIZ in 2021. And we're always focused on the mid-market before and really started in construction. That's where they built the practice around. Obviously a lot of CPA firms focus on different industry groups. The very first one that we focused on was construction. It's like construction, real estate, manufacturing, distribution, and there's some others that go onto that. But our bread and butter has always been construction. So we were, CBIZ is a top 10-ish, whatever, firm for accounting for specializing in construction. Our firm, prior to joining CBIZ, we were top 20 on our own. So we were pretty well known for it even before. Yeah. I've been at the firm over 20 years. So I started in January of 2003. I was thinking about that before this meeting. I went through college, during the .com boom and bust, and me and all my friends thought we were going to go work for the Big Four and go get golden tickets and go get stock options somewhere and strike it rich, which of course didn't happen for anybody. So when I came out of college, I graduated right after Enron and 9/11, and the Big Four not only weren't hiring back then, they were mostly like firing my friends and laying them off and stuff. So when a well-known mid-market firm came knocking and said, "Hey, do you want to think about specializing in construction rather than technology?" I was like, "I know nothing about construction, but it sounds great. Thank you."
And you didn't go to school for tech, did you?
No, I went to school for accounting. So I went to Gonzaga University, and they have a really strong accounting program, fantastic accounting program. That was one of the reasons that drew me there. I actually started there before they became known for basketball. I knew about them because I grew up in the Northwest, but they were not well known yet. And they had a great accounting program, really high pass rate for the CPA exam, and a really high job placement rate. Basically, if you graduated with a degree there, you're almost guaranteed a job, and you had a really good chance of passing the CPA exam. And I was like, boom, I can make money doing that. It sounds great. So took that path, and I've been with my firm here ever since. So started right out of college over 20 years ago, and I specialize in audit and attest work and consulting. I've been on that side of the house my whole career. I was a partner with Burns and Porter prior to joining CBIZ. Technically, my title now is a managing director at CBIZ, and I lead the construction practice group. I guess you could say for the Northwest, but we're kind of one office, so it covers the whole thing. Yeah. So, and CBIZ has several offices around the country that specialize in construction. We're one of them. Phoenix, Kansas City, Philadelphia. There's a handful of us. Indianapolis. It's pretty good group of guys and gals that pretty much focus 100% on construction and very passionate about it. So
Very nice. So how did you get involved with CFMA from there?
it's a good question. So our firm's been involved in CFMA forever. The local chapter out here, which is called the Puget Sound chapter, I think we've had somebody like either involved in the board or committees since before I started at the firm over 20 years ago. So we've been active in the local CFMA chapter for a very long time. My predecessor who ran our construction practice before me, when he rolled off and rolled me on, he's like, oh, by the way, you're also going to join the board at CFMA. I was like, oh, I don't have a say in this matter, do I? He's like, no, you absolutely do not. He's like, also, I was the membership committee chair for the local chapter, and you're going to probably have to do the same. So it was like, I went from knowing very little about CFMA other than having attended a few local chapter events and meetings to all of a sudden I'm on the board and okay, what do we do next? So,
Well, we do love the word voluntold at CFMA. So we have over 9,000 members. We're approaching 10,000 members. We are currently running our 12 plus membership program, which is the best time of the year to join because your benefits will be extended until the end of March 2025. So it's a great deal. But as the chair for the membership committee, what is your elevator pitch when you're talking to people who aren't CFMA members to get them to join?
who aren't members, which anymore, it's hard for me to come across somebody who isn't. But when I do meet somebody and I think they should be, part of the organization, become a member, I just first of all I ask them, what organizations are they a member of? Sometimes, usually if they're not a member of CFMA, they're probably not involved in much else either, is my experience. So then you're kind of getting them, it's kind of a personal choice. So I'm saying, look, I understand your time is really limited, especially if they're a general member and they're, controller or CFO of a, successful construction company. They're busy. Their time is at a premium. So my pitch to them is usually, hey, you should consider joining because your level of involvement is what you want it to be. The basic resources are available to you that can help you in doing your job better, like just getting building profits, just being able to attend the webinars that really spark your interest at your leisure, getting involved at the local chapter. You can be a member and there's really not a big ask on your time unless you want it to be. If you want to get involved, your commitment's up to you. But we're going to the local chapters put a lot of effort into giving our local members value for their dollars and time. Like, we give them great education. We try to give them relevant, topics to what's happening in our region specifically as much as we can, whether it's, we'll do job site tours with some of the big national builders out here. We get updates from, the Department of Transportation. There's so many different ideas and topics ranging from, technical, even tax and audit type stuff, updates all the way to, soft skills. That's been a big push lately with, DE&I. We try and focus at least one educational event around, diversity, equity, inclusion every year, which has been great because it's a really important topic in construction. I guess what I tell them overall is CFMA is probably the best single resource you can have as a construction financial manager. If you're going to pick one, this is the one. Like you'd probably have to pull from 4 or 5 other resources to get as much as you can get from this single membership is the way I look at it. So, Connection Cafe is another way they can get information. You don't have to use it every day, but just follow that digest. And you can see what other CFMs are talking about, what's on their minds. And I read it every day. I don't read every point by point, but I skim it to see what the topics are. And I'll drill down into stuff when it's like, oh, my clients are dealing with this. And then I frequently share the results from those conversations with other, leaders in my firm too, because there's a lot of smart people involved in those conversations and they're being very open about those topics that are important to them. And there's really not many other resources out there that are comparable.
One of the things that has always amazed me with CFMA members is how willing they are to help in any questions that people have. Like you could go through and search page after page of Google search results and weed through all these different questions and answers, or you could go to the Connection Cafe and get your question answered by one of our members, a real person who is going through the exact same thing that you're going through, you know?
Absolutely. To that point, during the early stages of COVID and the PPP, when the PPP 1.0 came out, a lot of organizations are trying to put out education and thought leadership around that. And like two of the best webinars that came out were done by CFMA. Two CFMA members are presented. I'm forgetting their names right now, but they were really great. And those are resources that I am pretty sure many CPA firms around the country used in designing their consulting practices around PPP for their clients. It was such a great resource because the CFMA members put a lot of time into reading the constantly changing rules at PPP because it was evolving. I mean, it started out with like 12 and then all of a sudden it's 43 rules and then it's like 62, whatever the numbers were. It was just insane, and to have people that were really drilling into it and be willing to share their insights with it. And it's like, God, remember the form 3509 with like the eligibility, like the backwards looking, like, hey, did you really qualify for this? And there's really great thought leadership that came out from CFMA around that when that was such a big concern. And yeah, it's, again, to somebody who isn't part of CFMA, but should be, they just don't know what they're missing out on if they're not in there. There's just so many great resources that even me, I have tons of resources at my disposal from my own firm. Like we're constantly, putting out thought leadership around changes in technical standards and so forth. But when it comes to serving my clients, I spend probably half my time looking to CFMA for resources because that's what they are concerned with, So for me, even on the associate side of it. So, I tend to focus on general members because that's, as an associate member, I'm motivated to be part of CFMA because I have to build my network. That's how we get better at our careers, serving our clients by learning from the industries that we specialize in, reading Building Profits. Like if you're in my industry and you don't read a trade publication like Building Profits, are you really specializing in that industry? That's what I tell people. It's like you have to be invested in the publications that serve that industry, and Building Profits is one of the best ones out there. I read pretty much all of them. At least occasionally. Building Profits is probably the only one I read consistently. So, it's good content, and there's really nothing else like it out there that most people can easily access just by a single membership. If you're going to get that kind of thought leadership, you'd have to pull from multiple resources, I feel like, if you weren't just getting it through Building Profits.
Well, obviously, I'm a bit biased because I work for Building Profits magazine, but I agree with you on all of those points. But let's talk a little bit about you being the chair of the membership committee. For those who don't know, what does the membership committee do?
Our charter is such that we're tasked to do a number of things, but we meet monthly, and our goal is to make sure that the membership offering is high quality. And we're looking at affinity programs, which is a great benefit too. That elevator speech idea, like, hey, there's affinity programs. So if you're a CFMA member, there's a whole batch of really high quality service groups, organizations that, partner with CFMA to offer things at discounts to our members. And it's also mostly targeted at general members, so technology resources, like we were just evaluating in the membership committee earlier this year, we've been evaluating a contract analysis tool that uses AI to look at construction contracts and produce reports that kind of gives you like a dashboard of the key issues in a contract. So you don't have to, necessarily read the whole thing top to bottom. Right. So risk management is a big component of that, endeavor. But, as a membership committee, we're just looking at, hey, we got to maintain the quality of membership. We got to obviously seek to increase membership for CFMA because, growing is important. You want to grow. And also maintaining the mix of general versus associate members. There's a healthy mix. And I mean, the good news is the general membership group has grown phenomenally the last 5 years. It's really, really strong. You said the start here, like we're over 9,000 members. I think the last report I saw, it's like 63 or 64% general members, right? That's fantastic. That's really good for an organization of this size.
Well, you all keep doing what you're doing on the membership committee, and we will be at 10,000 members in no time. So let's switch gears a little bit and talk about advice. Do you have a piece of advice that you've held on to over the years that you received that you really like?
Great question. This is an interesting one that maybe not everybody has this perspective. One of our founding partners, Bob Burnson, he used to tell us when he talked about getting out and building your network and going to events like CFMA at the local level and national level, which, by the way, we can talk about the national convention, which is fantastic. But he told me, he's like, look, first of all, don't just go stand and talk to the people branch out, go walk around the room. Don't just talk to your buddy, because you're not going to learn anything by just talking to the guy that knows all the same stuff you already know. Go talk to people you don't know and you'll learn things. And he said, sometimes it's the people kind of hanging out in the wings that look like they're just observers that have the most insightful things to say. He's like, go talk to them. He said, they might be a little introverted, they might be a little bit shy, but one, they're going to appreciate your interaction more times than not. And two, they frequently have something really cool to say. And that's where you can learn. We have in our local chapter, there's one of our, success stories we talk about frequently. There's two general members, one who's been a member for a very long time. He's a CFO of a really successful local contractor. And another one who's a CFO of a non-competing but similar, size type company. And the incoming member, he was brand new to construction. He actually used to work in retail, and he wasn't a CFMA member yet, but attended based on a recommendation from maybe a banker or something like that to go to CFMA meeting, check it out, just go get, see what it's about, maybe become a member. He went to his first meeting, which was, one of our educational updates with a social component, a happy hour afterward. And he just kind of stumbled into talking to the experienced CFO, and like the experienced CFO, like took him under his wing. He's like, it sounds like you don't know a whole lot about what's going on here, so I'm going to help you. Really smart guy, but came from a completely different industry, and so it's a big success story because now the new CFO, who's been a CFO of a construction company here for 6-7 years now, I believe, he's now like on our panels at the local chapter level. He's like, he's looked up to now. He went, but it helped accelerate his career, because there was a CFMA member who saw an opportunity to, help somebody, and he did. And boom, it just goes like that. So yeah, I think getting involved is so important because building that network helps you build friendships, which is where you really share knowledge and learn.
Yeah, and I don't think we can talk about friendships and networking and not mention CFMA's annual conference and exhibition, which you brought up before. Just a plug that people can go to the conference website to put your information in to get notified when registration opens in January. I have it linked below. But my first conference was Vegas in 2019, and I think my mind was blown just in the sense of how many networking opportunities, educational opportunities, opportunities to just hang out with people you haven't seen, in a year and have fun things to do as well. And I think that seemed unique for me because I've never had that sort of experience before.
Yeah, 100%. The national conference, I tell this to people too when they're first joining CFMA at our local chapter level, said, hey, I encourage you to get involved at local chapter level, and I challenge you to consider going to the national convention because it's by far the best experience you can have in terms of networking, education. I mean, it's hard to pack. There's no way you could pack more into 3 or 4 or 5 days than what gets done at that national convention for this group of people. Yeah, I went to the Vegas convention. It was fantastic. My first one was I remember the Phoenix convention was my first one that I went to, and I didn't know many people there because for whatever reason there was only a handful of people there from my local chapter, from the chapter board. But I did have one of my clients was there, and he went out on a hike, like out in the Saguaro, that he organized because he'd been going to the national convention for a while and made a lot of friends. And the first night I got there, he sat me down with the friends he made on the hike. And then I became immediately friends with all those people. And then from that moment on, it was like everywhere I went, I was going somewhere with somebody I just met, from that point. And
Right.
I think that's the experience everybody has when they go to the convention for the first time. You're going to find a group of people and you become fast friends, and you're probably gonna be friends forever,
Yes, absolutely. I really think that is a shared experience by everybody. Well, Rhett, we've come to the end of the podcast. Is there anything else you'd like to say before we sign off?
No, I mean, God, it's really hard to talk about all the benefits of it in a short window of time, right? We could just ramble on and on and on. I mean, you can just go to cfma.org and look at the benefits if you haven't already before, but peer groups and suicide prevention is a big thing. Again, going back to that one-stop resource for, CFOs, controllers, and everybody else in construction, like, hey, everything that should be important to a CFM is somebody at CFMA, some group, some committee, professionals that work for the organization like you're trying to give, resources and content and ideas to these people so they don't have to think of it on their own. Like here's either a really well developed, like a peer group, like here's a peer group you can join right now and have an immediate impact. Here's a book of resources about DEI and suicide prevention, and all these things are really important in the industry. It's all here. And it's, how you use it from there is kind of up to you as a member, but I feel like most members get at least the value and then some out of their annual membership. It's really not that expensive. So
excellent. Well, thank you again, Rhett. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Good to talk with you.
And thank you, everyone, for joining me on another episode of Voices of CFMA, sponsored by Old Republic Surety. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe and tell your friends about the podcast. I will talk to everyone in 2024, and I hope you all have great holidays.